Hello, beautiful souls. I am Valeria Maritza, your host here at Healing Through You. I am an infinite being of light, and so are you. I am so excited to bring you my next guest. Her name is Angela Jean. She is a mindset coach, and I love everything she has to say. So let's bring her in and welcome her. Welcome. I am so excited to have you here on Healing Through You.
I'm excited to be here.
Well, let's just get right down to it, Angela Jean. Let us know. Tell us a little bit about your backstory. How was your life before you started down your path of self-discovery and healing, and to that led you to where it is that you're doing now.
One thing I want to say about our journeys is that I strongly believe, and you'll hear me say it over again, that we are who we train to be. And what I mean by that is I'm 4 months from being 50, and I can look back at even the darkest chapters, which we all want to ignore, forget, suppress, stuff down, and identify the skill sets that I was training that I'm using now to live a life like that's packed with purpose. And that's the feeling we all seek, right? That intrinsic value that pulls us out of bed in the morning. So I think it's really important that I'm going to share just little chapters. And then I want to go back and kind of share the skill sets that I was learning, even if it's lying, cheating, manipulating, you know what I mean? Because that's some of the stuff that we don't want to own, right? But it's really useful if you're someone that's trying to find your purpose. So
I love that. Yeah.
yeah, all the answers I say that we are the healers, all the answers we seek are inside of us, and we're all externally focused. So it's really important that we own our stories. You know what I mean? Because there's even parts of mine where I'm like, I will never talk about that. That's staying locked and hidden. But at least you need to, sit in your truth. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
be okay with your story. You don't always have to share it, but you need to come to just an honest place with it and own it, you know?
I love that. Yes, because we are so quick to judge ourselves
Yes.
negatively
Mhm.
and just like we're so unkind to ourselves when we are healing, or even when we're not, like we do something and then we just beat ourselves up, and we just want to like bury down and just put it on the side, and we never want to talk about it again. But it's all part of what makes us, of how we have been shaped into who we are.
Yeah, but and like you say, the things that we suppress and want to bury, that is the gold. That is the power, because that stuff holds so much energy that's waiting to be transformed because it's so painful.
Yes.
It causes anxiety, depression, and that energy, if you can harness it and transform it, that's the power that we're all seeking and needing as a catalyst into what we're all seeking, that passion, that intrinsic value that pulls us out of bed in the morning. So anyways, blah, 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 blah. I'm a babbler.
No, no, it's perfectly fine. Go ahead.
Oh God. So I was a teenage runaway at 13. And when you're a teenage runaway, obviously you're not training to be a good person. Like I said, when you're surviving, you're kind of, is it okay? Do you hear that siren?
No, I don't.
Okay. Like I said, when you're living on the streets, when you're surviving, you're not training to be a good person. This is when I was manipulating people, using people, learning to lie, steal, cheat. You're always looking for the next safe spot, which doesn't really exist. And that's part of my life that I've always tried to hide and not talk about. But it's actually a very powerful part of what I'm doing now, is why I wanted to mention it. And obviously, as time went on, I found my way through using people, manipulating people, lying, cheating, running. And I ended up in Hollywood, and that's everyone's dream, right? To live in Hollywood. But what happens when you're living in Hollywood is all of a sudden you are, what would I say? You feel like you have reclaimed your power, but you're still not in your power because you're being given things, you're being gifted things, you're going on glamorous trips, and all of a sudden you think you're this person that's so cool and untouchable and so powerful, right? But you're still giving your power away because you're using your looks, you're using your body. You don't realize you're being used because you think that you're using people. It's this interesting dance that goes on in Hollywood. And at that time in my life, I was very angry. I had a lot of anger management issues, and I was a fighter. I did a lot of, I got into a lot of fist fights, let's just say. I got into so
Okay.
many fist fights that I was instructed by the court to take 2 years of anger management.
Wow.
And what I realized, like, that's why I say it's important to look at this stuff. What I realized is even with every fight I was getting into, I was wishing that I could meet my match, like someone that would just take me down because I thought if someone could beat me up, this sounds crazy, that I would get to experience peace, that I would be able to just surrender and like exhale and just like stop fighting. And I know that sounds crazy, and I can only say that now because
Mhm.
I've done the journey. That whole time, like through my fighting, I was just wanting to find peace, which sounds crazy. Um, so anger management, you would think, again, would train us to uh, deal with our anger, but it wasn't teaching me to deal with my anger. It was teaching me more manipulation tactics, which is interesting. So I was sharpening my sword in manipulation and learning how to manipulate people more because one of the things that we had to do was trigger each other and try to diffuse each other. And I was so good at scanning energy, reading body language just from being a teenager to run away on the streets. You learn to scan risks, right? That I was able to trigger them and get them angry like within seconds. So the teacher used me for every single person. So here I am taking all my skills of manipulation and just being this horrible person. And I started dating, right? So I start dating and I think I'm a good person because I'm happy and I have all these friends, right? Like we don't realize we think that we're lovable and we're nice and we're cool because we're happy and we have all these friends and we're popular and we go to the cool parties. It's such a disconnect from self. So at that time, it's funny how the universe has a great sense of humor. It started sending me mirrors of myself. I started attracting these narcissistic partners that were abusive, they were users, they were violent, and I thought they were such a piece of shit, right? I couldn't see myself in them yet.
Mhm.
I was not conscious. I wasn't awakening. And it wasn't until this one boyfriend I had that really, really hurt me, let's just say. I caught him in bed with another girl. Fast forward, I'm in my car and I'm crying and I'm screaming at why I hate him and why I think he's such a piece of shit. And there's a reason why this story matters. I'm listing all the things he's done to me. He's a manipulator, he's a user, he's a liar. And I'm screaming and I'm crying. And all of a sudden, I swear to hand to God, for the first time in my life, I hear this whisper that says, "Then so are you." And that's the first time I experienced that
I got
mirror.
chills.
Then it was a whisper, babe. And it was like, and the
Yeah.
cadence was, "Then so are you." And I was just like, it just stopped me in my tracks. All the blood, I felt like all the blood rushed down my body. And I realized that that's how I had been treating people, but I had never got caught. And when you don't get caught, you feel like it never
Mhm.
happened.
This is so incredibly powerful because so many of us, before we hit that rock bottom moment where things begin to change for us, or when we become aware of who we are or the mirror that's being presented, we're always pointing the finger, right? Like, oh, it's because of them. It's they did that. I don't have this because that, right? And it's always outwards, outwards, outwards. And it's not until we get to that point that you got at in the car that we are able to see like, wait, what?
And
It's
it's now
me.
it's screaming, and I see it in other people now. I was screaming at the top of my lungs like a psycho, like what a horrible person he was. He's a user, he's a liar. And so now it's funny. I use that now in coaching. I listen to what they're so angry about and what
Mhm.
they're projecting, and I know that there's a mirror. I'm like, you have to find that within yourself. You know what I mean? So that's what I'm saying. Like all these little moments that seem so traumatic, they're such powerful teachers, you know, to
And if
what's true.
somebody had come to you at that point, and said and try to show that to you, hey, there's a mirror, like your life is the projection of you, you would have been like, F you, right?
Well, in fact, the funny thing is about that, I was complaining to one of my guy friends about all the dramas around me. He's like, "You're attracting that." And I remember saying, "F you. Why would I want this?" Like when you're not conscious, you're just not conscious. And that's why I extend people grace now. I just like they're not at your level of consciousness. That's why it allows me to extend people grace now. I
Yeah.
hold no anger, no hate for anybody. They're not conscious yet. And maybe their time will come and maybe their time won't. Hopefully it will, you know.
So powerful. Hopefully, people watching this episode will begin to see themselves in it, like, and begin to pause perhaps a little bit and begin to like compare and see, hey, what's going on? Like, I tell this to my son. My son is only 9 years old, but when he has like things like everything's a big deal for him, and he's saying this person and that, and like, what's the common denominator here?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right?
Let it be big though. I say like feel your feelings, like let them be big because that's just
Absolutely.
energy waiting to be transformed. But it's learning to transform it it's very hard.
Mm. So what did you do then from that point in the car when you heard that whisper?
I heard that whisper.
Yeah. So,
I just, because I saw how it felt, like that horrible feeling, that's when I vowed to myself to like stop lying, stop cheating, stop manipulating, and just remove myself from Hollywood completely. I don't know, it was just some major aggressive shift. And I moved down to the beach, and I feel like I was almost being prepared because that's when, the family, like the suicide started happening. I feel like something bigger was guiding me, like preparing me for what was happening. Because when I moved down to the beach, I started doing Bikram hot yoga. I had never done hot yoga. I wasn't one of those people. You know what I mean? I was way too cool for that. Uh, you know what I mean? So, I started doing yoga, and that's, I got the call one night from my sister at 3 o'clock in the morning, and she's like, Angie, and I said, what? She's like, it's not good. And I was like, what? And she's just like, Dad's dead. And that's all she said. And I never can forget that moment because I just said nothing. And she said it again. She's like, Dad's dead, Dad's dead, Dad's dead. And she said it like 5 times. And I said nothing. From that moment on, I just kind of numbed out in general
mhm.
in life. Didn't cry, never cried. I was partying still because I didn't know what I was doing. I was still partying, even though I had left Hollywood. And I continued going to yoga because something just kept pulling me there. I didn't know what. I just could not wait to get to my mat, could not wait to get to my mat. I'll never forget. It was like 6 months after my dad's death. Um, I was leaning forward in pigeon pose and I just broke. Finally, just broke down in tears. Like it was such this crazy release that clearly had been building. And I just was taken. Yoga captured me. You know what I mean? It really did. And then shortly after, my sister committed suicide, lost my mom to stage 4 cancer within 30 days. And then literally 6 months after that, the man that had been like the only thing constant in my life for 10 years also died in his sleep one weekend. It was such a domino. I literally, I say it's like someone took a shotgun. It was just like, and
Mhm.
like I was still standing and I was still standing. And then the next death and the next death. And finally I was just like, oh, and it was lights out. And that's what I know now is the dark night of the soul. Like it got so dark. It got so dark and so lonely and just like I'll never forget like being curled up in a ball and just like rocking. And I just felt like I was being attacked by demons. I don't even know why. I just didn't understand. Like it was so back to back. I didn't have time to breathe. And I remember just rocking back and forth and literally just whispering, like, help me. I don't even know who I was talking to, just saying, help me, and that rocking. And I just was like, help me. God, I could get chills just thinking about it now because I can remember. These traumas imprint on a cellular level. Like I could still feel it that moment. I'll never forget it.
Mhm.
The crazy thing from that moment on, you guys, is when I said, help me, I was in such a place of surrender. And I really think it takes full surrender. I'm a fighter. So it took all of that for me to surrender. Dad suicide, sister suicide, mom, best friend, lover, business partner. Like it took everything. Full surrender. Next morning, I wake up, and this is crazy. I open my phone, and the first thing I open on YouTube, it was a sermon, and it says, your pain has purpose. And I'm telling you, from that moment on, it was a rabbit hole. I would put my hand on my phone. I'd be like, guide me, talk to me, help me. And every day it was a new sermon. It started out as sermons and then it moved into meditations. Every single thing that was being fed to me was like my higher self was guiding this. And the journey was I don't know, it became this seamless path. I found the Ho'oponopono meditation. Have you ever done
Yes, yes.
Let me tell anyone who's listening, do not underestimate that thing because the first 2 times I was doing it, I'm like, this is stupid. We always thought this is not working.
Like, how is that going to work?
Yeah, it takes a moment for the body to feel safe so the trauma can surface. The beautiful thing about that meditation, which I want to talk about just for 5 seconds,
Mhm.
when I first did it, like I said, it didn't work. When it started to work, I started seeing all the people that had abused me and abandoned me and, releasing them, forgiving them. I love you,
Mhm.
the Ho'oponopono. But what was magical about it is that after I had gone through every face of every person, I saw myself. I had never realized that through every moment of my life, I was continuing to abandon myself. Every time I said yes, but I wanted to say no, I was continuing to abandon myself. And I, for some reason, saw my inner child. Like every time she had a need, I would tell her to shut up, stuff her in the closet, and close the door. And I just started like bawling for the fact that I didn't realize that I was doing that to myself, and that's when I really started connected to myself. And
Yeah.
that's when you really start to heal that loneliness and that abandonment wound. It has nothing to do with who's sitting next to you. It is a complete disconnect from the source within you. And that's when the shift really happened through that. I get shivers through that meditation because I
Yeah.
never realized how much I was causing harm to myself, regardless of all the people, like how much I was abandoning and abusing myself, by letting these people abuse me.
Yeah.
So,
And for those of you who don't know, Ho'oponopono is the meditation where it's a mantra that you just keep saying, like, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, and I love you. And I'm not sure if that's the exact
like, no, no, yeah,
order.
I'm sorry. Like, think about that. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I thank you. I love you. Why I started seeing my abusers. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. That didn't even make sense. But
Yeah.
when it turned inward, I'm sorry, please forgive me. It's like I was saying that to my inner child, like, I'm sorry. Oh my God, please forgive me. I can't believe I've been doing this to you. You know what I mean? Come.
I
And I
love what
just
you're
wanted to like
saying.
grab her and hug her. Like I just saw this little girl outside of me, like, oh my God, like, holy shit. Took me till I
Yeah.
was 49 years old.
Yes, and I completely understand, and I'm glad you're saying that because whenever we hear you must forgive, it's not good to hold a grudge and forgive, and the first thing we are always thinking of is the other person as a separate from us, and we're like, why would I want to forget them? They did all of this, whatever they did, right? And we
Hmm.
have so much anger, so much resentment, so much like, angst towards them. And it's because we haven't realized that it's not them we're really forgiving, but us,
Totally.
right? And that's the whole power of Ho'oponopono. You guys need to look it up because if you
I
haven't
made
really,
one of my own, yeah, just because I wanted it the way I wanted it. Like, but
uh-huh,
it's so powerful.
yeah,
Yeah, it's really powerful. And a lot of things, like with the anger that we hold for other, it's just our own unmet needs. So what that does is I think when people trigger us and we're angry at them, all that's trying to do is that spiritual expansion and growth that I talk about. It's teaching us to be vulnerable. It's teaching us to communicate our needs because we don't want to do that. All it's trying to do is pull expansion out of us through these sucker punches. You know what I mean? And it's hard, say what you need. And then when you learn to speak your needs, if they don't show up, it just dissipates the energy because you have released, your need. You're not really looking for reciprocity in their answer. You will just feel better when you say your need. If they can't show up, you release them, you know what I mean? But at least you have done your part. I think it's the suppressing of that need which causes that emotional block. You know what I mean?
yeah. But we also have been programmed to not express our needs, especially as a female. Like you need to look pretty, be polite, and be nice and agreeable.
And
And
serve.
that's right. And that's the thing. And then if you have anything that goes against that, then you're not being a good girl. You're not being good. What you say or think doesn't matter. And it's the program of believing that we must abandon ourselves and be this other version of ourselves that we're being taught we are in
Yeah.
order to be loved and liked and be worthy.
Yeah.
And that's the first part. It's like the first part is abandoning ourselves and then and being all these other people's, puppets. And then when we get to the part of realizing that it's us that we have abandoned, that's where the part of like, okay, I forgive myself, right? Or I forgive my inner child.
Yeah, and that's where the loneliness that everyone is feeling right now comes from because I always say that everyone's performing instead of transforming. And when it comes to your friendships or
Oh, I love that. This is a quote. Transforming instead of,
no, I say
performing
stop
instead of transforming.
performing, start
Yes.
transforming. Like we'll all post an image of us doing yoga and journaling, but it's like you're performing. You're not like really do the work.
Hmm.
And I always say whether it's friendships or intimate relationships, who do you become in the process of being friends with that person? Who do you become in the process of loving that person? Because that's how you know, like you say, we become a different version of ourselves for everyone. But who if you're becoming someone better, great. But if you're wearing like if you're suppressing and, just being this dancing clown with all your unmet needs suppressed, then that's not who you need to be moving towards. It's really picky I'm sorry, it's really important that we're picking and choosing who we hold space for in our lives
Hmm.
because our bodies are vessels, right? We can only hold so much. I think that's what people forget. Our bodies are vessels and we can only hold so much. And if it's filled with fear, lack, doubt, like how much room is left for love, inspiration, light, all that stuff that creation, passion, purpose comes from? There's none.
So let me ask you a personal question about the time when you were a teenager and became that runaway, because when we're teenagers and we go through that phase of like, I know everything and I'm always right, and I'm not listening
Yeah.
to anything, right? We all go through that. Um, and then at the same time, not having your needs met, which probably is what made you leave, is that part of like, I'm not being heard, I'm not important, I'm not good enough, whatever it is, and then you leave. Because I feel that so many teenagers go through that stage of feeling like I'm done, I'm out. I went through that. I actually did run away for about a couple of hours and then came back because
Oh, a couple, I wish it was a couple of hours.
I
My,
wrote a note. It's so funny. I wrote a note. I left it on the mantle. I was so angry. I left and
yeah.
I went through the center of the city and I saw lots of kids begging on the street. I grew up in Chile and there was a lot of kids there doing that. And I passed them and I started seeing myself in them. And
Right.
then I started feeling grateful that I actually had a home and a roof and
Wow.
food. And I was like, yeah, I don't think I want to do this. And I went back home and I remember like the whole way back home thinking, oh my gosh, I'm going to get it. I'm going to get beat. Like it's like I'm going to be in so much trouble. But
Yeah.
even with all that fear of like what was expected at home from having run away, I still chose that because I didn't want to be there. I saw it like, okay, yeah, I don't know if I want to do that. I didn't think this through. And I walked in home and I see my note on the mantle. No one had seen it, no one had missed me.
That's so funny.
So I took it. I was like, oh my gosh, thank you.
Well, I think it's amazing that you were able to even know that, like, gratitude. You really felt that at that young age, like, wow, I'm so
So
lucky.
I'm glad you're bringing that up because now that I'm telling the story, I feel this and I'm like, oh, that's what it was. But I believe when I was going through it, it was more of the fear of like, I don't know if I want to be here. I don't
Mhm.
know if I want to be doing this life. Like it's presented like this is a kid just like me, my own age, and they're
Yeah.
here, like they have no home and they have no shoes and they're begging, and I'm like, yeah, I don't know if I want that. Like I didn't think this through, and it was more of a fear of like, how hard is my life going to be here? I don't think it's going to be harder than what I actually have at home.
You know what's so interesting about what you're saying is that it served you as a child, but that's the same mindset that keeps people stuck from exploring their dreams and their passions because it's fear of the unknown. You'll always go
Yes.
back to what you know. Even yours was lovely, but like if it's not, people will still go back to, toxic relationships, abusive homes, because the fear of the unknown is more scary. And unfortunately, our
Yes.
dreams and our passions and everything live in the unknown because we haven't been that version. We haven't done it. So it's an interesting dance.
No, I completely see that, and that's so true because it's always that like going through that door of the unknown and then like choosing the part that we were trying to leave
Yeah,
because at least that's comfortable because we know what to expect.
totally.
Um, but I feel that like me actually leaving the house, writing the note and leaving, that was the scariest part for me. And like doing that, like, okay, I'm leaving, right? And then seeing it, I'm saying, yeah, like I don't really want to do this anymore.
You're like, I'm already hungry, so I'm
Hey, I'm a
gonna
tourist,
go
okay? I
home.
live I live in comfort. Comfort is my thing. I
Yeah,
don't think
trust
there are
me.
many tourists that run away.
When I was on this, I lived on candy and cigarettes. I remember living on the street. You're hungry. You're definitely hungry. Oh my God. Wow.
Did you ever get back or did you ever get your relationship mended with your family after leaving at any point?
I didn't. Let me say it wasn't my parents, it was who they married. There was extreme physical abuse on one side and then, sexual abuse on the other. So there was just nowhere for me to go. Like out the window was better for me because my
Yeah.
parents weren't, they're both very passive pushovers, which is probably why I'm so strong now. And which is also probably why I'm so picky about who I tie myself to partner wise.
Mhm.
I did not. So not until I was of age, because I know they would have put me in juvenile hall. Because one time I did go home and they threw me immediately into juvenile hall. They just didn't know what to
Wow.
do with me. They didn't, no one was listening to me. You know what I mean? So once I manipulated my way out of that situation, I jumped out the window and I knew when I jumped out the window, I was never going home. And it was a weird moment because I was 13. And now when I see 13-year-olds, I'm like, holy cow, that's a baby. Yeah, no. So I knew I wasn't going home. So that was it.
That is a
Never
baby.
called, never talked to anybody. until I was of age and they couldn't do anything to me, like 18, 19, you know?
Yeah. I think I was about 10 when I did it, so I was a little bit
Yeah.
younger than that.
That's when you start. I think that's like our individual soul journeys trying to find their identity. Like, who are
Yeah.
you outside of this, family? Ugh.
Well, if you go by the numerology, right? Like the year
Hmm.
9 is where everything ends. Year 10 would be at number 1 again. So that's all about you and finding all new things. So, I guess that makes sense around there.
Yeah, 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 yeah. That's interesting.
So, okay, so you went through all of that, you found your Ho'oponopono, and you began to heal. Was that the beginning, do you feel, of your spiritual awakening and awareness and beginning to release what you didn't even know you needed to release?
Yeah, I mean, the first whisper of awareness was, that moment in my car, but the
Mhm.
spiritual awakening was, yeah, after all the suicides and the deaths. That's when it hit me really hard. That's when, and luckily, no, let me think. God, it's so hard to track these timelines. Yeah, I would say that was, but it was a long journey. You know what I mean? These aren't overnight things. This was
Mhm.
years of
Yeah, yeah,
discovering.
for
It's funny
sure.
because at the time I wasn't dating at all because I was too fragile. I was fragile. I couldn't even take if one person was mean to me, blew me off, didn't text me back. Like I couldn't do it. So I didn't date. But this is what's interesting. When I started getting a ground under me through meditation, through reading, through learning, educating, like just absorbing so much about trauma, X, Y, Z, suicides, whatever, you start learning, you start understanding. And when you start understanding, you start forgiving, and that starts healing and making you whole. Then I started dating. And the funny thing is, I was using dating as data. And I know that sounds crazy, but I was getting so good. I think that's also when like the guide in me was being born because I would go on dates with men and I could see exactly where they were on their journey. But then because I knew how to mirror now and use mirroring, I was searching for myself in them, searching for myself in them through their stories where they were stuck. And then I would go home and like, I felt like I was just becoming like this massive flower. And everyone's like, so you're using guys for dating? I'm like, no, I was just dating for data. They're like, it's the same thing. I'm like, no, it's not. I would go on one or two dates and I could just see it immediately. And I was really starting to get good at seeing where people were stuck. And I didn't even know that I was going to be doing what I'm doing now. No clue. I was
Mhm.
using it strictly for my own growth. You know what I mean? But it was really useful. That's why nobody wants to date right now because the dating climate has changed so much. But I'm saying it is the best learning ground that you can possibly use right now if you want to spiritually expand and work on self-development. You can see so much through the people that you call in because we attract what we are, right?
hmm
One way
Do
or the
you
other.
feel when you're able to tune into the person and like pretty much know exactly where they are in their journey, what they're doing and stuff,
Yeah.
that you are also using your intuition to like to know to just have that trust in knowing that hey, that's where they are, like without question, like you just knew where they were at,
Well,
or do
that's
you
when I
think it's
started really
just
learning. Excuse me?
your experience?
I think it's both. I think, that's where I really started learning we are a conscious collective. You know what I mean? And that's why I say, like, for you and I, we've been through so much and we're so bright and happy. It's like, because this is what it looks like on the other side. You know what I mean? This is the possibility. And I feel like it's my duty to hold the light for others, and say, come
Hmm.
this way. So I don't want to talk about any of this stuff like it's didn't matter and it was so easy. Like it was dark. It got really dark. So I just want to acknowledge that because I know you and I are like, ta-da! Like these cheerleaders, but we are holding the light for the conscious collective. And so, no, I just think it was that it's like that thing, like I am you, you are me. What I see in me, I see in you. You
Hmm.
know, uh, I think if we all stopped abandoning ourselves, we'd be able to see ourselves in each other much more powerfully. And that's when
Yeah,
you extend grace, and that's when you serve and you help and you guide and you release and you forgive and all the good stuff, that
yeah,
really frees you from the anger, the resentment, just the heaviness, the contracting. You start expanding and opening.
yeah.
It's
I
just such a
find this
healing.
yeah, it's so important to share this part of our journeys too, because now that you've made it and you're happy, people who are just meeting you are like, oh yeah, but she had no trauma, so of course it's easy to be happy, right?
Exactly.
Because we can't see any trace of that darkness, but
Yeah.
we have gone through it. It's just that we
Mhm.
have done the work, and now we're here helping others get here as well. So I find it so important to also share that backstory so that
Totally.
people can see that hey, we're human just like you. We've gone through this stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
It's just a choice of continuing to work on the inner soul and and get to the other side instead of maintaining yourself in that circular pattern of self-pity and anger and
Yeah. Like
resentment.
we basically have removed that stuff from our vessel, and our vessel is filled with light now. You know what I mean? It's just a
Mhm.
matter of removing the gunk, this emotional, spiritual sludge,
Yeah.
and then you are a vessel of light. And it's not like we don't, like, I'm still experiencing life. But the thing
Hmm.
is, now I have the skill sets, I have the tools in place that I know how to recalculate, I know how to move my energy, I know how to transform. Like, you're always having to circle back and
Yes.
move the energy, transform the energy. It's not like you're just light. You'll absorb something, but I know now when I'm absorbing something, and then I know to move it. I know to transform it. You know what I mean? So it's
Hmm.
constant work. It's not one and done.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
we still have bad days. We still get rejected. We still get, you're still dealing with life. So
Hmm.
it's a matter of knowing how to bring yourself back to baseline.
Fabulous.
Clean your
So,
back.
okay. So from there, you started really digging deep into your own healing. And then when did you start feeling like, oh, this is something I need to share?
It was kind of like I said, when I was dating, and then I wasn't like, I took myself off the scene, dating, socially, everything. I went to complete cave mode. That's just what I was called to do. When I started socializing, I found myself, like I say, identifying where people were based on what they were complaining about, the drama. I live in Miami, there's lots of drama. And I was able to, I never tell people what to do. I ask them a question, and I try to let them find their own way. So I was just kind of getting good at that. And then I noticed all my friends were calling me and wanted to talk to me. I need to talk to you about this. And they were calling me and calling me. So that's kind of when it just, it's one of those things. It's just like I'm was birthing. You know what I mean? I was birthing this version of me. I had no clue.
Yeah, I love that. A lot of times, so anyone who's watching this, if you have found yourself in a place where people are coming to you for certain things and you're just good at, that's part of your birthing. Just like
1000%.
Angela Jean here.
Yeah, if it's effortless, it's like it's your soul's path. When
Uh-huh.
there's no resistance, it's like,
Oh, I love that
we
there's
got
no
to, like,
resistance.
I stopped knocking on closed doors, I say.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know.
So, tell us a little bit about what you do now, how you help people, how you are transforming, continue to transform yourself and others.
The thing is, so like I said, I've used every moment of my life to kind of create what I use now as my toolkit, let's just say, to
Mm-hmm.
recalibrate and move my energy. Um, because of the suicides in my family, I got really obsessed with studying the mind. And for me, it's thought patterns, right? Because I was really close to my sister's side. I'm sorry, I was really close to my sister before her suicide, like just trying to help her. She was the only, by the way, I was the only one in the family that she would confide in about anything. She had removed everyone from her life. And so I became that source for her during that time too. So I say, like, it was a birthing, it was a slow birth. But, anyways, so I became obsessed with studying the mind and focusing on thought patterns. And I obviously struggled with rumination as well. Like, we all, the thoughts, the negative thoughts, the spiral, the spiral. And I thought to myself, I'm like, how, like, this is where, for me, this was the entry point, the negative thoughts. And I started studying the mind and how the right and the left brain communicate. I started studying energy. I started studying rhythm. I started studying the nervous system, like all of it. And that's how I came up with my soul sync sessions. As soon as I learned that the mind's receptive when it's in a state of playing, being entertained, I'm like, oh, I got this. Like, I got this. And I was able to use my music background, my dance background, reading energy. I was able to use like all different chapters of my life to create what I have now. So the soul sync sessions were created. They're rhythmic affirmations. And why I say the affirmations don't work sometimes is because it creates cognitive dissonance within the body. Like I've said to you before, if someone doesn't feel loved, like we've all experienced, and we try to slap an affirmation, I am loved, I am love, but every cell in your body is saying, no, you're not. Who loves you? I don't see it. Where? You know what I mean? You're creating that disconnect. And so you're doing more harm than good. Our body always tells us where we're at. You know what I mean? Like if you're contracting, you're not serving. You know what I mean? You're not expanding. You don't want to be contracting. You want to make sure everything you're doing, you feel expansion. You want to feel open. Okay. So that's one thing I think is very important to focus on. Anyways, babble, babble, babble. So why I created rhythmic affirmations is because number one, the words need to act as a signal to what needs to be transformed. So I am loved doesn't necessarily work if you feel unloved. So I created what people might say is a rhythmic riddle. because what it's actually doing is it's bypassing the mind's defenses. When you feed your mind a rhythmic riddle, it thinks it's being entertained. It thinks it's in a state of play. So it's just like, yeah, okay, we're doing this. We're a goddess. We're loved. Our heart is a mansion. Like it's in sync. There's no resistance. And that's when you're able to really embed the information into your subconscious mind. So that's why they're rhythmic affirmations and they sound like pop songs. My heart is a mansion. I'm a goddess. I'm worthy of the absolute best. You know what I mean? Like they're really cute, catchy, hooky songs. They're followed up with digital journals because when you write, you're forced to structure, you're forced to focus. It anchors the data even more. And then there's another modality where you incorporate movement because then what? You're calming the nervous system. So all together, you're creating this internal shift that's really magical. And eventually, I promise you guys, hand to God, those shitty thoughts that you naturally think just go missing. All of a sudden, you're talking about love, and the way you used to think that reactive thought that love doesn't happen for me, it doesn't exist. It's just missing. You start to transform. It's not overnight. You know what I mean? It's over many nights, but you will see that you will start to shift. You start to feel differently about whatever you felt crappy about before. It's a really magical, fun little I don't even know, like just the whole method that I created is just very powerful, but entertaining, fun system. System? I don't know, call it system.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I completely get you. And it's 11:11 here as we're recording, so it's like angel numbers just like giving you the affirmation. Amazing.
Love it. Wow.
I love love how you explained the entire method that you've created and how it works and it bypasses the regular affirmations when we're saying like let's just go with like with abundance, right? Like people are saying I'm
Yeah,
rich, I have money. It's like there's nothing in my bank account. What the heck are you talking about,
exactly.
right?
When your mind calls BS on you or thinks it's a joke, you're creating more harm than good.
Yeah,
You're making
yeah.
yourself feel more bad about yourself.
Right. And then you're like, well, why isn't it working?
Yeah.
I
So
must
my
not be
money one,
doing this right.
yeah, so the funny thing is I focus on truth. So some of my money ones are like money is a currency, it's a vibration. Money is a currency, it's a vibration. And then it goes, feel the elevation. I feel the elevation. And then flowing free and wild like me. It's
Uh-huh.
like there's no resistance. It
Yeah.
just gets in the vibration because that's money is a currency. You want to align with the vibration of money. So when I do my money affirmations, I focus on the vibration and they're really good. Sorry, I'm
No,
a
you're fine. I
fan of
love
my
it.
own stuff, but they're really good. And then you're supposed to jump. I encourage people to move, but it's a whole thing. Like, it's
Hmm.
fun. It's fun. But yeah, money's a big one. Money and love. Love and money, baby.
Yeah. Money, love, health. Those are, I believe, the t three major things that people are usually looking for, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I love it, but it's absolutely true because if you're saying, money's a vibration, yeah, it is. You don't have any resistance to like, well, I don't have it, or it's not coming. You're not
Yeah.
thinking of that. You're just affirming something, and then it just magically appears.
It really does. I consider it vibrational training. Like I know I say it's like mindset training, but it's vibrational training because these audios elevate your vibration. And when you get your body involved, it it's really transformative on every single layer. You're hitting it from saying it, you're writing it, you're moving, you're seeing it. You know what I mean? So it's
Hmm.
like your crappy thoughts have nowhere to hide, and your beliefs eventually start to shift as well. But I
Yeah.
truly believe it starts with the thought patterns. That's just what I believe. Not everyone has to agree with that, but I think you have a thought and then you have the emotion. But some people might say you feel and then you think. It doesn't matter. You know what I mean? That's just what I think. I think you think it, feel it.
Yeah. It's I feel
I
like
think the thought reaches out, the emotion pulls in.
yeah, the thought is like you're formulating it and you're really attached to the mind, the
Yes.
brain, the 3D, and then
Yeah.
the feeling is that's just the magnet, the amplifier that brings it towards you in the 5D, which, that's when things happen quickly. You don't have to be like, well, I have to work X amount of hours to make that much money. The 5D is like, hey, here's a paycheck that came out of nowhere, right?
Yeah. I'm super obsessed with quantum physics, so yes. That's a whole different that's a whole different rabbit hole. Essentially, this is quantum training, but I don't like to even introduce that word because it's new.
Uh-huh.
Because you're constantly feeding the quantum field what you want on every level. So, yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm like,
What is there something that you would like to share with the audience that we haven't touched on that you just really feel is important and you want to just tell them?
there's so many modalities, but one thing I want to say, you guys, that I do every single morning that we didn't even really talk about is moving the energy. When I started studying meridian points, that's when everything really, really started to shift because I do my own soul sync sessions. I do everything to make sure it works before I'm going to feed it to somebody. But I noticed I still had a little bit of a block. Like I would call things in and I couldn't keep them. I would manifest powerfully, but then it would leave. And I'm like, what the heck's going on here? And I knew it was the energy block. So I do meridian point massages every morning. I don't really know how to speak about that quickly, but that's a very, very powerful thing that everyone should start doing. I do 5 minutes every morning for
Mhm.
fear, anger, overthinking. And all you have to do is massage the point. But there's more to it. You have to sit down with intention. There's a whole thing.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to tap down on quickly.
It's fine, but I mean,
Yeah.
that's a really, for those of you who know meridians, they're like rivers of energy that
Yeah.
are happening right outside your body, your physical
Yeah.
body, right? And
Yeah.
if those are blocked, then that's when you have the blocks of not being able to actually, like for you, hold on to the things you are manifesting.
Yeah, yeah. There's no there the flow is blocked, like you say, and you're not in your full power because there's blocks. And I want to just say it doesn't have to be some major trauma. We can have little moments throughout the day that accumulate over time and it's creating a blockage. Like people think, oh, your friend annoys you, you didn't say anything, you ignored it, but you didn't ignore it. You suppressed it, unmet need, it's a little block. And then there's another, and you accumulate enough of these over time and you have sludge. You know what I mean? So that's why I do it every single day. And I wake up happy as a clam. I still do it because maybe there was something that annoyed me that I'm not even aware of. You know what I mean? So it's just very important that we move the energy every single morning.
I love that. Yeah, and I also love what you just said, like little things that just accumulate if you don't move them out of your body. So
Yeah.
important because we don't usually think about that. We're like, oh, I didn't have any childhood trauma. My life was good, or blah, blah, blah. But then we're not taking into account all the little things when we wanted to say something or when we did say something and we were turned down or shut down.
Yeah. Even a thought, a
Hmm.
yucky thought can create a little, you know what I mean? Little block. Oh, like building. Oh, yeah.
Amazing. So, where can people go and find you?
Ooh, okay. My Instagram is probably where I'm the most active. It's
Uh-huh.
angelajean.chat. But my website is soulsyncsessions.com. And I want to
Okay.
give you a link. I'm going to give you a link to give to your audience. It's going to be a free soul sync session. And that is a 30-day audio. And it comes with a digital journal as well as an accountability journal. So anyone that downloads it, the intention is to listen every day, do the journal directly after, and then check it off on your calendar and see what happens in 30 days. That's all I want to say. Watch the magic happen.
Amazing. That's lovely. Thank you. So generous of you. That all of the information is going to be right there on the notes. So
Yep.
make sure that you go down and you read it and you grab that freebie. That sounds really amazing and very intensive.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Mm.
All right. Well, thank you for being here on Healing to You. It's been so much fun having you, and I love everything that you have shared with us. So thank you for going deep into that intimacy of your backstory and how you got where you are, and also the freebie that you're sharing with the audience.
Yeah, I mean, my motto, guys, when one rises, we all rise. When one rises, we all rise. You know what I mean? So I will happily give, serve. Let's do this, people.
Well, thank you so much, and we might have to do another one of these.
Yeah, I mean, if there's something that is interesting to your audience as far as like, whether it's this chapter, that chapter, I would love to go deeper. It's just there's so much that I just
Uh,
wanted to tap down on a little bit.
So that's for you guys, okay? So anything that you heard on this podcast with Angela Jean that you want her to go deeper into and expand more, just put it in the comments,
Yeah.
and then we'll see if we can make this happen for you.
Yeah.
All
All
right,
right.
guys. Well, with that, I'll say goodbye and I'll talk to you next time.
Thank
Bye
you.
bye.
Bye.